Uh, this is on turning national manufacturing into smart manufacturing, and it's focused on leveraging robotics and Industry 4.0 in the area of manufacturing industry. The session will be chaired by one of the best experts of this field, Mr. Ankur Basu, Managing Director, PwC. And I request Mr. Basu to come to the dais first and then take the session forward. May we have Mr. Basu? Mr. Basu, I think we are going to have a very interesting session with you. So whilst the changeover is taking place, let's get ourselves organized. Mr. Mohan Bachav, the industry leader from Automotive IBM India. Thank you, Mr. Bachav. And we have Mr. Sudeep Majumdar, please. Digital Manufacturing and Special Projects, Larsen & Toubro Limited. And that's nice. And Mr. Amit Sethi. I think I see less tables, and I think it's a good idea. Why? Because I think, gentlemen, don't be too comfortable. Lunch will be shortly, but make the session a good one to remember. Thank you, Mr. Basu. Session's all yours.
Thank you. Am I audible? Am I audible, please? Thank you very much. So I have been given a task to bring in some energy in the room, and we have been standing for quite long. If I have your permission, can I request you to stand wherever you are? Just stand. Thank you very much. Thank you. Really delighted. And we'll just laugh, right? I mean, this is something which we generally don't see people laughing heart out. And those doctors do prescribe that if you laugh your heart out, there's a lot of oxygen that you inhale. So we'll do very simple exercise, just 2 minutes. Raise your hand. Ha, 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 ha. Sit down. Sit down. All right. So we'll repeat it 3 times. Stand. Ha, ha, ha. Sit down. Ha, 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 ha. Sit down. Stand. Ha, 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 ha. Sit down. Stand. Thank you very much. Sorry, I mean, no offense, but I just thought that let's bring in some energy in the room. So, first of all, dignitaries in the audience, I'm sure people who just left out, they missed this last session, but nevertheless, I request everybody to settle down. Thank you very much, dignitaries seated in the audience, esteemed panelists. The topic of today's discussion is smart manufacturing, enabled by robotics and Industry 4.0. So I've been in this field for close to 24 years now, and I'm feeling a little outdated. You know why? We are all discussing about Industry 4.0. The European world is already talking about Industry 5.0. All right? While speed is good, but are we at all justifying Industry 4.0 in first place? I don't know what is the answer to this question. Maybe some of the experts would have it. But let us learn what is happening in some of the large companies, what are MSMEs struggling with, and what are some of the learnings that can be taken from today's session. I just want to make one confession before I really start. There's a word called robotics, right? So while automotive industry has been working on robotics for close to decades, and they are extremely mature, food and beverages, retail and consumer. Now these are the industries that have adopted robotics to a large extent, But what is happening in a couple of other sectors, like Mr. Sethi from heavy engineering industry, do they need robots? I'm sure they do. Sudeep coming from very large diversified group, and I'm sure a lot of process automation is the requirement of the day, but can robots help in bringing in a lot of optimization? So I don't have answers to this question. So what I can promise is at the end of 1 hour, we should be a little more enlightened. We should be asking questions, and I'll leave the forum to ask questions maybe at the end of the session. But let's make it more interactive, right? So over last decade or so, Industry 4.0 has really shown what is possible by bringing in some of the most powerful technologies like industrial IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, digital twin, and it is no more a hypothesis. So there are positive ecosystem push that is also there, which is compelling companies to embark on this journey. For example, Make in India, smart manufacturing, and especially the PLI that is really driving many companies to get into expansion, modernization by means of Industry 4.0. And if I really look at the statistics, uh, you would have heard about World Economic Forum's Lighthouse certification. Now, till about 2 years back, we have seen that hardly two companies in the Indian context they got certified: Tata Steel and Renew Power. But if I look at last year, there were four companies: DRL, then you had Cipla, CA Tires, and there was another who got Lighthouse certified. You'll be surprised to know that this year alone, there will be five more companies, and I cannot disclose the names. They are also opting for Lighthouse certification. Now, what does it indicate? Lighthouse is a clear indicator that companies have adopted technologies at scale and they have really got benefited in terms of improving productivity, in terms of gaining edge on sustainability, in terms of bringing in resilience. Now, Industry 5.0 definitely will bring in the human angle, and that's the push which the European world is making on us. But human centricity is another interesting phenomena that will get added to Industry 4.0 to bring in a holistic change in terms of people, process, and technology. The environment is conducive. A lot of industries are adopting Industry 4.0. The benefits are being realized, but not everything is hunky-dory. And only yesterday I was visiting this very large connectivity service providers lab, and 5G is one of the things that will supposedly take us to a Industry 4.0 category company. But are we ready in terms of 5G? And when I saw the lab, definitely we are not ready. And companies who have really embarked on large scale transformation, will 5G pull them down, or is it something that we have to live with for the moment? I don't have an answer. Maybe we'll again put this question to some of the panelists. There are a lot of headwinds, definitely. While there are a lot of positivities, there are a lot of learnings, but I'm sure there are a lot of headwinds. And MSME, for that matter, will have separate set of challenges, whether it is fund availability on time, whether it is people and skill set. The other thing that we realized is the ability of these MSMEs to demand higher premium on their products and services is something that really is a challenge for them. While they have the intent to go digital, they have the intent to bring in quality in their products and services, but is the customer willing to pay a certain premium because he's delivering quality and on time? So all of this definitely gives me an impression that we do have challenges, but at the same time, there are positive vibes that are also coming from the industry. PwC, is a survey organization. We do a lot of study globally, and one of our study recently indicated on a global context that close to 50% of global CEOs are bullish about digital. And when I look at the Indian context, this 50% became 73%, which means the Indian CEOs are far more bullish in terms of adopting these technologies, provided there are 3-4 things that happen. And as I mentioned, people and skill is on the top. 5G has to happen. And one of the messages that I really want to leave is for the government to really fast track the 5G so to say, capability on an enterprise scale. Today, we may have it on a B2C kind of an environment, but when it is related to B2B, the private 5G kind of a network, I don't think we are there yet. And there will be a couple of other challenges like chip shortage because of Taiwan incident. There will be supply chain constraint. Net, the ecosystem is conducive to one extent. There are a lot of good things that are happening, but at the same time, there are a couple of impediments that is really putting question mark on the right business case that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to Industry 4.0 adoption at a large scale. So I'll not take much time, and we'll have a lot of discussion around some of the questions that I've asked. And maybe I'm also requesting you to keep your questions ready, and we'll pose it to some of the esteemed panelists that we have today. Right. So I'll settle down now. Sudeep, with your permission.
While you settle down, why don't you invert the discussion? Why don't we accept some
Maybe we can, surely we can invert the discussion. Nice suggestion.
Let's invert the discussion. That's what Sari Ankur is saying.
Okay,
sorry.
Okay, so I also wanted to do one more poll so that when the panelists speak, they understand what kind of profile is there in the room. Okay. With a raise of hand, can I ask how many of you represent steel industry? Any kind of steel industry, primary, secondary, tubes, all right, around 5 to 7%. Okay, how many of you come from heavy engineering industry, deal with large plates, tubes, make structures? Only one? Two? Okay. Sudeep? How many of you come from, let's say, education, skill? Only one. Oh, I think almost 10 people. Okay, so that gives a sense of the audience today. And rest of the other sectors, can somebody say which is the sector, if you have not raised your hand, which is the sector you belong to? Sorry. Robotics, fantastic. We need you. There'll be certain questions that are coming your way.
You're my man today.
Great. You're from IT. Great. Thank you. So as Sudeep said, power sector, power and utilities, power generation, distribution? Distribution, fantastic. Great, I mean you have a mix of audience today, not only manufacturing, you have power and utilities, you have people in skill development, you have robotics, so great audience, I think, yes. Industrial automation, okay, and catering to all sorts of industries? Fantastic. Kindly take your seat. Yes, sir. Okay. Fantastic. Automotive, auto components or auto components? Fantastic. Yes. Scrap materials to India. Very interesting. What kind of scraps? All right. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So as Sudeep suggested, should we just reverse our sequence and maybe we can start with a couple of questions coming from your side. Would you like to do that? Any questions?
And ask any questions.
All right. Maybe you can keep yourself ready and let me take the discussions forward. So, Mohan, let me start with you. Like, there are these technologies, yeah, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I mean, these are all buzzwords, and they have all proven their capability. At the same time, we see that there is inherent reluctance in certain section of the companies. I mean, they are still skeptical. What is in it for me? ये मेरे लिए काम करेगा कि नहीं? Such kind of questions we as consultants face on a regular basis. What is your perspective on adoption of Industry 4.0? And do you think it will be an imperative or it will be a serious consideration for companies who have still not embarked on the journey to survive and thrive in the market?
Thank you, Ankur, for that question. Am I audible? In fact, in your opening statements, you did make this statement that some of these industries, like automotive, has been using robots for decades, right? But we are at a point currently, I would say, for last couple of years, whether it's cloud, 5G, edge, AI, IoT, all of these technologies are getting integrated. Okay, there is a technology convergence that is happening. And this is the sweet spot where now the robots that which are there on the assembly line or in your plant, how so robots that you have in your plants or in factories, how do you collect all that data? Okay, how do you use your IoT devices, sensors, and everything? And once you have those data, use technology like edge to do all of your computation inside the factory so that there is zero latency. You use cloud and 5G so that you can use your heavy processing which is sitting inside the cloud. Also, how do you use AI to kind of correlate all of this data, get meaningful insights, take actions on those, and ultimately deliver business KPIs for this, right? And that is where, going back to your main question, the companies who will embark on this journey would realize business benefits, others will fall behind. So I definitely see there is a need, and the leading companies are adopting and will adopt in future.
Great. I think, I mean, one of the things that you brought out is quite interesting, and we from PwC and any other consulting company, we also keep evangelizing the fact that it is not a technology first discussion, it is a business first discussion. So unless you have been able to establish the business case, no matter which technology you adopt, you are not justifying your business requirement.
Absolutely.
Sudeep, I want to come to you. You represent a large, diversified conglomerate, and you are sitting on a position of advantage. You are sitting on the board. You have a holistic view across whether it is steel processing, whether it is EPC, whether it is multiple other businesses that you have a outlook towards. The question is, for such a large group, how do you decide on your priorities, and what do you think Industry 4.0 will help you justifying those priorities in the near and longer term?
Okay, my ChatGPT starts working. Okay, I think it's a very, very wide question. I try to be very kind of a little bit of precise. First of all, in a wide variety or in a kind of a conglomerate like us, I'm from L&T. So we do have heavy industries, we do have defense, we do have EPC, large EPC business, heavy precision manufacturing business. So different businesses have different types of demand for, I would say, productivity, efficiency, etc., which can be resolved or solved by a lot of IoT, a lot of Industry 4.0 or Industry 5.0, whatever you say today, interventions. So it depends on which business we are taking. If I take EPC business, I've got quite a different kind of requirements. If I take heavy industries, as you are working also with us, it's a different requirement. If I look at the defense, it's got a very different. So I would say take the business by business, KPIs by KPIs, and have an outlook for the next 5 to 10 years to build differentiated capabilities. It's important for us because technology per se is not important. It is important how this technology helps me, or technologies help me in creating differentiated capability so that I am ahead of my competition, ahead of the market also. Some of the times we feel that we are doing certain things that other companies are actually all will be following 3 year, 4 year down the roads. One of the examples I'll just talk about here. Let's take EPC. I know that by far we are probably the largest. Our great competitors are also there, TATA projects and all. But when I see that, where we are in the technology maturity or digital maturity, I must say that, it's nothing to brag about that we are there. Of course, we are there. We have started investing 2016 onwards. However, it is not about one company. It is the industry. which have to come up with the same degree, or at least somewhat similar degree of investment, which I feel that I'll talk about it a little later, a little in detail, but I feel that somewhere it is missing at this point in time. And it was so evident post pandemic that I could see that, oh, there has to be something different. That's why I said industrial automation guys are there, and probably we need to talk. And we feel that there is a degree of maturity we can achieve, not as a company, but as an industry or as an industrial ecosystem, right? Similarly, we see that in heavy industry. Similarly, we see that there are huge opportunities to grab, to do certain things. Sometimes we feel that, especially in this particular forum, which is MSME related, probably we sometimes think that I can't move the needle in the world. Yes, we're true. In fact, I can tell you, even we can also move the needle of the world, right? However, if we join hands, it gets a very different dimension. It takes a very different dimension. And it is, you are not alone, I'm not alone. But if we do mutual resourcing, as you know, Sanjay was talking about just now, that they have opened up the R&D. Let me stop my conversation just saying just one particular thing. CEO has given me a work. One day he just called me. He was there in the high-speed rail project. You saw that recently GBS in the Global Business Summit, Minister has presented. Basically, it's done by us. So CEO called me and saying that even though the progress is good, ministry is happy, everybody is happy, but CEO said, no, I would like to do more. So they tell me something on the automation, mechanization, digital. I am a digital guy. I'm an IT turned digital guy. He told me, I don't care. Just look at AMD. Be mad and do that mad space. And I tried to look at last 1 month, one and a half months. I'm doing lots of research. I would have loved to show something on that. Trust me, one of the things, reinforcement cage building, right? You must have seen that everywhere in the context of civil engineering. Yes, in the high-speed rail, one cage or one girder is 1,000 tons, sorry, and one cage itself is 50 ton. Its a scale is different. But if you look at it, is ultimately the steel rods after rods, and they are bound, right? That basically tie rods are binding. You tell me, is it so difficult to do an advanced robotics on that? Is it so difficult in the world? We talk about today, Make in India, Digital India. You know how many companies are doing in the world? Only one. And I contacted them. They said, we are ready for US and Canada, not we are ready for anywhere else. And they said also that they are not ready for the whole world market. They're not ready for the Indian market or any other market. Why it is so? Is it so difficult? I'll show you some of the pictures of that. It's not. I found out a Baroda-based company, quite a few younger guys are working in the direction. Only thing that what I find that they don't have the direction. They don't have the support. They don't have the support of R&D. They don't have the support of possibly companies like us. They don't have the support of the industry. Otherwise, I think huge amount of labor that we unnecessarily invest, which can be invested somewhere else, can be done. So again, industry 4.0, 5.0, whatever you say, right? This huge demand. I'll come up with lots of such kind of work and during my course of time or probably during the day. And I need help. We need help. We can help you as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Sudeep, what you're saying essentially is collaboration is the way to go. And my friend from industrial automation, you already have a customer from India's largest company. So you should pay me some royalty at least. Amit, I am aware that in your company, there are a lot of digitalization that has happened both on the product side as well as on the support side. I'll come to the specifics little later. What I really wanted to ask you is, I'm sure this must not have been a great journey. I mean, you deal with heavy equipment and the technology itself was not available, at least to my knowledge. And at the same time, and I'm not referring to your organization, there are multiple failures that companies encounter before even getting the first success. and failures give us more learnings than success, so to say. Can you share some of your stories, or at least one story that each one of us will be very keen to know as to how Thermax adopted Industry 4.0 and how you have really been able to service the customer better?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Very good afternoon to all of you, and thanks Ankur for that question. So just to introduce myself, I run digital and IT for my company, and I will talk about the customer facing element where I run as where I operate the digital function and take equip our products with the industry 4.0 technologies and take them to the customer, right? So to begin with, I think if I pick up one place where we have succeeded, and I'll also talk about the obstacles we faced in that journey to address the failure points, right? Potential failure points. We are traditionally an energy company, right? So we've been around for 50 plus years, boilers, chillers, right? We moved into environmental products, so electrostatic precipitators, water and wastewater treatment. We also now have an build on operate model, a TOSL, where we provide on-site energy solutions, where we own the asset that generates steam for you. So we sell SaaS, which is steam as a service, right, to our customers. So one place where we really have succeeded very well and we have moved to best in class is what we call our Edge Life portfolio. It is based on sensorization, it's based on IoT. We started that journey just 2 years back. And today we have our boilers, our heaters, our chillers, our wastewater treatment plants going out with sensors enabled on an AI ML platform where my engineers are sitting in Chennai and Pune and monitoring the health of assets in Latin America, worldwide, right? So, and by the way, they're not just monitoring, they're sitting and taking actions. You're actually controlling the asset out of India, right? Now that's happened in a span of 24 months for us. And that's been a huge success, right? And what drove that success? One was support right from the top, the board and the CEO, right? So today I missed my meeting. Every Friday, 12 noon, I get on a call with the CEO to discuss what's happening with that solution, how are we driving the adoption, how are we driving growth, what are the internal obstacles that we are facing. The second factor that worked well for us was, and I think Sudeep talked about collaboration. There are two levels at which collaboration has to happen, right? One is collaboration within the organization, then collaboration with your partners, and then collaboration with your customers, right? That was the bit that we were able to solve, right? And the collaboration element between our engineering functions, where a lot of the deep mechanical engineering expertise was there, and the digital folks that we brought in, we pretty much created, and the services teams, right? So these are physical services teams going to customer sites to service these assets. All of them came together and built that product, right? Today, as I speak here, we have 100 plus installations of that software. We are charging for it. It's a digital service. Customers are seeing value. I just need to have a 30-minute meeting with a customer and it immediately becomes a very firm inquiry, translates into a product sale very, very quickly for us because there's a ton of value there, right? So that's the success element. What were the obstacles we faced or the potential failure points, right? And I think you all touched upon it earlier. One is, I'll bring two elements here, right? One is I always say address the foundational elements of whatever you're doing first, right? So first of all, define what you mean by a certain term. And so you should all have a shared language around Industry 4.0, or we should all have a shared language. And there was no clear definition when we started our journey. So for us, it was important to really define what Industry 4.0 means for Thermax and its customers, right? And so that was the foundational element. The second piece of the foundational element was, see, the IT industry has done a lot of good things, and the consulting industry. The challenge that we have also created is we have created these waves of hype where people buy technology for the fear of missing out without realizing about the outcome that they wish to drive, right? So the second foundational element is how do you really define your business charter? How do you really define your outcome? And be very honest and authentic about achieving only that outcome in the life cycle of the implementation, right? So that was the second failure point that we addressed. The final one that I will leave you with, which is a failure point, which is from a technology perspective, which is there, is how do you really connect your assets at the edge, right? So that's something that is a technological failure point, where especially if you have old assets. So we have assets which have sold 30 years back, which are still operational at customer sites. How do we retrofit these assets? So those were three potential failure points that we had to address in our journey. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So SaaS has a new meaning. We had heard software as a service. Today you are getting Steam as a service. And this is exactly the benefit of people from diversified industries coming together and sharing success stories. Very interesting, Amit. I want to come back to you, Mohan. You are a champion in auto. And auto has been the early adopter of Industry 4.0. And when I walk into the shop floor of any auto component, very advanced auto component company, I don't see people around. It's only the robots, overhead conveyors, everything functioning. And at the same time, you have highest productivity, throughput, efficiency, etc. As I said, I'm slightly challenged in terms of knowledge of robotics. The other challenge that I see is not too many robotics company, and I'm glad that we have a friend out there. There are not too many robotic companies who have been able to repurpose solutions that are required for, let's say, heavy engineering company, or let's say a company that is deploying thousands of manpower and something can easily be replaced by a robot. And you have been dealing in the ecosystem for so long. What is your guidance to people from other industry who are looking for robotization? What do you suggest?
Yeah, in fact, what has happened in the industry is the big robotics companies, they are focusing on the big orders, right? So they have standardized the robots and they have been selling it to the big customers like automotives. And that is creating problem for the niche industries or first of a kind, if you have first of a kind a requirement. And they don't have time for all this, right? And that is where the demand supply needs to meet each other. I'm happy that we are sitting today here. There is a demand, there is a supply. We need to work with each other. That would be the first one. Second one, I think we also need to leverage the universities and education systems out here, because in the morning session we talked about it. There is a lot of engineering talent in this country, and there is I would say lot of research that corporate can give it to the which happens in West, right? Corporate invest in the engineering campuses. Some joint development R&D needs to happen for first of a kind robotics requirement. That would be my second thing. And third thing is, I think government and policy makers also need to get into this to see what is required for the India's $5 trillion GDP target, right? If we are saying manufacturing industry needs to be 25% of GDP, right? As a part of policy itself, we can come up with certain policies around robotics.
Thanks. Great. Again, my friend from Robotics, I've got you connected with one customer, so I deserve the second royalty.
Ankur, can I just take this question a little differently?
Go ahead.
So it's a very interesting one on the robotics side, especially. Robotics is not robotics. Don't think of the GE Fanuc. That's the most important thing. Or ABB or Siemens or the big, multi-dimensional, freedomed robotics. Please don't think that. That's the first roadblock that in our mind. That's what I have been researching on this in this particular area. Robot is something which can do a repetitive task, which is currently labor intensive or even machine intensive. Important the machine intensive, because sometimes what happens is the same work that can be done with a smaller robot, we are using large machines and unnecessary national waste of resources. National waste, I'm saying, because we run those through diesel, etc. Right? So important is look for the opportunities. I'm giving you just one example. We do have, Ankur again knows about it, so I'm taking your permission. So we do have large vessels, steel vessels. It's one of the projects we did with ITAR, and then ITAR means that there is southern France, that first fusion reaction power plant, right, which is infinite power. So for that, actually, we were thinking of how do you get the sim, which is basically the welding sim, almost 100% perfect. And we do it in 99.9997% perfection. So that's kind of a necessity. Of course, we do have people. But then we thought that what can be done? We got quite a few brilliant people from the industry, from the robotics, from smaller companies. One of the guys who came up, he's an Indian guy based out of Kochi, now in Scotland. He's an architect and from University of York. Very interesting career. That's what I'm saying. Where the ideas come from. He created a robo which is magnetically crawling on the steel surface and emitting ultrasound, and through AI we are getting the deposition of the particles, of the welding particles, and we are getting run time whether the the welding is correct or not. Amazing guy. And this we got where? In our factory. You know what I'm doing? I'm taking that same concept to the high-speed rail in the site. I've asked him to do certain thing for us, which so far we have been doing manually. We shouldn't be. So I think this huge amount of opportunities are there. Please talk to larger companies, smaller companies, wherever there is a labor intensive. Labor is not available in the market. Come what may, whichever industry you are today. Either labor is there, skill is not there, or either raw or both. You get labor, you don't have skill. You get skill, you don't have labor. Right? It's a very, there's a reality that we are facing today. So, I'm not saying discard the laborers. Laborers, reskill them for different things. We can do that because we will not be getting too much of laborers tomorrow. However, important is forget this mindset of large robos. There are enough opportunity for smaller ones, which will be providing you enough opportunity for next 10 years. That's what my view is, and I'm very strong in my views on this because I'm doing research at this moment. Thank you.
Nice point, Sudeep. And I'm fully aligned with what you said. We have a mindset that normally the robots are supplied by these large OEMs and they come extremely pricey, and that really defeats your business purpose. You might be looking for a small robot that can do your painting or that can do your camera-based inspection or things of that sort, but if you really talk to these big guys, they will come, they will do their analysis, and then they will quote a price which definitely is an impediment to moving forward. Amit, you represent an industry which is energy intensive, so to say. You consume, if I look at the other industrial segment, probably you have one of the highest energy consumption. At the same time, it's also people intensive. I'll not be justifying today's discussion if I don't talk about sustainability, the ESG element. And today it is no more a choice. Everybody has to justify their operations in terms of ESG, especially the environment and sustainability. What is your experience in Thermax? And what is the kind of maturity towards ESG, linking the digital that you have already done with the ESG agenda?
Yeah, no, again, a great question there, right? And a very relevant one for us as an organization. So by the way, if you just try guessing the year we started our air pollution business, all of you can think of a year in your mind, and then I'll tell you which year we started. It was 1970, right? We started thinking about air pollution in the year 1970, right? And we started having our first set of products come out around air pollution in the 1970s, right? So let me talk about how we are addressing sustainability in the energy space, right? I don't know if you guys, all of you read the newspapers today. Today morning or today afternoon as we sit here, you have forest fires in Goa, right? You must have read it on Times of India, right? And unheard of, right? We would never have that Western Ghat belt, the Goa belt, you would never have a forest fire there, right? It's all linked to emissions, it's linked to climate change, the debate is on, people say it's miscreants, but there are some undeniable facts we see around us, whether it's globally. Now, one responsibility that the energy industry, including Thermax, that we have is how do we address this crisis, right? Fundamentally, couple of things we are doing. One, our core product, which is used for steam generation, is boilers, right? And we are shifting away, we have shifted away from coal to multi-fuel boilers. And what do we use instead of coal? We now use biomass. And where does biomass come from? You all hear about the pollution in Delhi because of Punjab. We pick up that biomass, we pay the farmer, and we convert that biomass into energy at a gross calorific value where the customer doesn't pay an higher cost compared to coal, and we use digital for it now, right? So how do I use digital? There is, my boilers are now sensorized, where I optimize the fuel efficiency of these biomass based boilers. Basis the sensors, they tell me amount of heat I am generating for the fuel quality that I am consuming, right? And biomass, if anyone's thought about biomass or worked in the biomass space, the problem is lack of consistency. So you could get groundnut, you could get waste, you could get walnuts, you could get various types of biomass, right? And how do you ensure that irrespective of the fuel type, you are able to promise a certain sustained amount of energy to the plant, is where we are using digital today. So that's one example of sustainability, right? Where digital is again helping us a lot. It's helping us monitor the efficiency with which we generate the fuel. It is helping us monitor the uptime of the asset. Even if you move to a biomass based boiler, we don't want you to have breakdowns of energy supply or the asset uptime, right? So that's the piece and that's where our engineering teams are coming together with us. The second aspect from a sustainability perspective that I want to bring up, and ma'am, you talked about speed, right? And being responsible, is how do we as a company offer community learning to the MSME and the manufacturing sector in India? So even if you buy one boiler from us, we ensure that we have all of these assets in India connected, all of these boilers to our operation center, where we give you inputs on how can you optimize the fuel efficiency of your boilers. So you have got one boiler, but you're getting the intelligence of the 10,000 boilers that we run all over the country, so that you are optimizing fuel efficiency, you are reducing your emissions, right? So those are two examples where digital is helping us. The third one that I'm very passionate about is this whole air pollution control business. There I would call upon the industry and all of us to become a lot more authentic. Let's not use emissions only to talk to the pollution control board and report those metrics. Let's please become authentic about it, and Thermax will step forward to help you.
Fantastic. I mean, great thoughts. But especially on the point that you made, Amit, that focus on the core, focus on the foundation first, even before you start thinking big. I want to come back to you, Sudeep. And this is probably my last question before I hand it over to the audience. First of all, you described the kind of complexity that your corporate has. There are so many challenges, and at the same time, so many projects, and you head the special projects in the group. And 5G could be one of the foundational technology that will take you to the level that you really aspire to be. And given the state of 5G, and I'm telling with a lot of confidence because I've only seen yesterday, we are still a little far. Do you think connectivity will play a big role in your business plans? And if it really drags for, let's say, more than 2 quarters, which the connectivity providers are committing, but it could go on for next 1 year when the routers are not available, when you don't have a backbone servicing you. what is your message to the audience, and what is your perspective on availability of good quality connectivity towards Industry 4.0?
Very interesting question, actually. So we have experience of connecting machines in the remotest areas where we work in our construction. We connected with 2G. You believe it or not, we connected with 2G. We connected our construction sites, the remotest nuclear facility, nuclear construction facility, through LoRaWAN. So it's a question of your willpower, first of all, I would say. What do you want to do? And what value it does to your business? Does connected site make a business case for you? First, think of that. Sometimes business case is also a little misnomer. People think that business case means returns. Not necessarily always. Transparency is always a KPI for our returns. I mean, it's basically, you can, based on the transparency, you can actually measure what you have gained. That's the next step. But sometimes we feel that first we'll have to have a financial numbers on our paper, and that's why whether it's a business case is there, positive or negative, and accordingly we'll be taking it. So no, some of the times you have to just take a gut feel. Just go ahead, connect your machines. That's what our CEO did in 2016-17. He said, come what may, I don't care about it. Connect my 12,000 machines. That's it, 14,000 machines. And we connected. While we connected, we found out it's not easy. It is very easy to say we have done IoTization. Do ask people who have done it in mass. And how many people, how many companies have done it in mass? I can tell you, there's a lot of theories are there. I'll not go into that direction. However, we are ready to share our experiences. And I do personally also share, including our CEO also shares. We have a Harvard paper also on that. However, my point will be, just if you are willing to go into that direction, go ahead, do it, look at what kind of stuff is there. What kind of connectivity is there? Based on that you do. Don't overexert. Don't try to get the 5G when you cannot. That's the first thing, practical experience. Second, yes, as a corporate, we do have our own ambition to be a 5G private player, and we are investing in there. And we will connect our factories to 5G. Yes, that may take some technological challenges. There may be some ecosystem challenges. We will overcome over a period of time. We'll try to accelerate that. But again, whether it's 5G or a 2G or a 3G or a 4G, it depends on what kind of business case is there. Now today, where we are trying to do a 5G, if you look at typically, we are not saying that we do in a 5G in our construction site. We can't do it. It's not sustainable because I don't have that. And after 5 years, the project will be closed, and then who is going to take that expenses, right? But we are going to try. We are trying to do it in the factory. The factory will remain, and we are doing digital twinning of the factory. We are spending so much of money. We are robotizing. We are doing all sorts of 3D, 4D stuff. We are doing standardization of design. Somebody talked about in the first session or second session. The response time. Response time not only on the fulfillment side, response time also is important for the customer demand side. Sometimes customer gives it to us, design it within next 15 days. And we have taken task where we'll be doing it, what cannot be done in 3 months, we'll be doing in 7 days. Such a standardization we'll be doing through digital. Similarly, what cannot be done in 1 month, we will be doing it 1 day with the next 3 to 4 months. There's a kind of, so for that we need to have lot of data churning, etc. Very high volume, high velocity, high variety. And for that, obviously layered information, layered data. So obviously you need a 5G kind of a connectivity. You can't just do it in a normal connectivity. 2G, just 2G or up to 4G also cannot you cannot do it with 4G also. So it depends on what you are doing. Don't be, again, I would say from our experience, hand on heart, I can tell you that it's important to have an ambition to have 5G, 6G, whatever they're coming up. You should do it, but market has a maturity stage, and do whatever is not only necessary, but also plus something, so that you can go ahead of your competition. You can take the competitions along and do whatever is realistic, right?
Great. So what you're essentially saying is don't try to force fit what is not there yet and do the best with whatever is available. Mohan, you have any views with whatever Sudeep said?
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with Sudeep's point, because just for sake of adopting, we don't need to adopt these technologies. If you don't need it, define what business KPI you are going to deliver. And in my automotive world, right, what I tell customers is, at least one of these two things should happen. Either your yield should increase, right, how many vehicles you can produce on this assembly line, or your defects should reduce. Okay, how many defective vehicles you are kind of moving out of your assembly line. If one of these two is not happening, then you are just adopting some technology for sake of it.
Thank you. So now I really invite you from the audience to ask question. Yes, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and who is the question for. You can pose it to him or her.
My name is Captain Malkani.
Yes, sir.
Worshipfully retired. This is addressed to Mr. Bazumdar. You had mentioned, sir, regarding the introduction of robots. Large robots and small robots, very efficient robots, etc. The net result is, do you decrease the number of people employed, which gives you greater sense of achievement? You knocked off 500 people from jobs, or you made greater production.
Thank you very much, Captain Malkani. L&T is one of those companies who gone to the during the pandemic also, we gone to the public saying that we have not fired a single contract labor also from our sites. 160,000 sites, when the government declared everything stops, 160,000 contract labor were stuck in our sites across the country, even outside. And we, during that time also, we catered to them. We could do for their food, shelter, etc. Also, probably many people don't know, because we know the ecosystem, how they work. They actually get the money and they send it immediately to their family. So what we did is, not only we gave them the money, we also sent them to their families' side. So it never gives us a joy. I think no company gets a joy to, to fire people. Even what's happening today in the tech side, when there will be an upcycle, they will be taken up, some other people will be coming up. I don't think anybody, because all a human being. It's a question of, when you go for automation, digitalization, mechanization, you unlock productivity. I can tell you the example. I saw one of the sites, one of the construction sites, large bolts are coming, and then the nuts are getting tightened by hands. Now, you tell me, and I do have people there. We do have people there right now. I'm a civil engineer. I know Mr. Chakraborty talked about, that I have a point on that also. I'll come back. So, are we so dumb engineers that we can't do a little bit of mechanization? Somebody can do tightening to a little bit of automation? Are we so dumb? And do I need really 12 people doing there, or can I not take 2 people there and 10 people to do something else? I do have lots of work. The situation is such, last 7-8 years I'm in L&T, right? In between, there was a little bit of detour. But I can tell you, I've been hearing this story. We don't have people. We don't have skills. We don't have labor. We don't get it. It's at the chairman's level also, I heard, right? Because there is a pattern, people go off, because the agrarian people come to the construction sector. Things are changing. The way it is changing, tomorrow we'll not be getting people also, because urbanization is a reality. Skilling is a reality. I will not be tomorrow able to get a plumber or an electrician or a fitter or a mason. We need to skill them. We need to get them certified. Things are going in the European direction or the American direction. So it's a question of not really getting rid of people. It's a question of how do you efficiently utilize these people, right? And making their work safe. I've got one point. Can I take that? Just I know that possibly it'll be a little bit of a problem in terms of you saw the the tie rod binding exercise. Have you ever seen that in construction sector? In your sector also, when you make your home, people are doing that. Typical. Have you seen their posture? Typical. The posture is this. The strain, and I can tell you, when I try to look at where the people are, who can make me this thing? I got one German company. And that too, they're telling me every tie bar, I'll have to buy it from them because they're copper coated it to induce a little bit of more copper ductility in the. Are we so dumb engineers here sitting? We don't know. So question is, again, I'm saying, intelligently, how do we make ourselves grow from here to here, as Professor was talking about, Dr. Panda was talking. This jump is coming. I can see that. It's a question is, who is going to jump into the well and get it done?
Thank you.
I have only two questions. I mean, not questions, I mean, curiosity, you can say. One is towards Mr. Majumdar. Now, what is your, opinion about 3D printed construction? This is one. How the robotics will actually come into play. And probably you are indicating the Walker machine. So the clip is there, copper coated, and that is what we are going to manufacture also very soon. And my second question to Mr. Shetty is that just 2 days back, there is a huge, you have seen that in the city of Kochi, the entire, the garbage ground has got a fire. Now the biomining is also required for the trash or the, garbages that dumped around all the cities. In order to also do the biomining, whether you have the technology or you can get the technology or some hand-holding for the MSME, so that the biomining can happen and again, it can also add to your business, the value to your business. Yes, please.
Go ahead first.
So we do have a business that's focused on what we call waste to energy, where we pick up municipal waste and convert it to energy. On the topic of biomining, and if you mean metals that are there in the, is that what your question was around when you meant biomining, you were talking about scrap and metal in that waste? Yeah, so yes, we do definitely have a business today which is functional, where we are not only using, like I said, biomass, but we are also using municipal waste and converting that to energy. And we have our boilers today are operational at customer sites with based on municipal waste. We in a way are considered to be the bellwether for the Indian manufacturing sector, because irrespective of whichever sector it is, energy boilers, we are one of the leading players in India, and we do have multiple ways to convert them into energy, right? So to answer your question, yes, the municipal waste also is something that we are looking at very actively, and that is this functional technology from us today. It's not something that I'm talking about that is futuristic. Again, we enable it digitally, right? So these boilers are all digitally sensorized and enabled. Yeah, thanks.
To answer your question on 3D printing. 3D printing is successful in some sectors. It all depends on material through which you are printing. That's one. In the construction sector, it is not yet fully successful, though there are a lot of claims around it. There is one company in Russia, then they have shifted to in Boston. They said they have been given a contract by NASA to build home in Mars. So that is also there. In fact, I know them as well. We also tried. We do have our innovation campus in Chennai, which is built on 3D printed construction. We are actually making a post office in Bangalore. the 3D printed technology. This is all testing ground we are doing. It's not necessarily, I can't say that they're all heavily successful because time will tell. There's a construction side of it. But in terms of manufacturing, in terms of different kinds of material, this is fairly successful so far. It depends on what kind of nozzle we are using. So we can discuss outside that as well. So that's a first part of the question. Second part of the question, it's not a question for you, but I can tell you one thing, that I see that even though I gave an example of EPC sector, but actually it will be coming from automation, it will be coming from MSMEs probably, I'm expecting. So it's a quite tight knit the industries are. In fact, next week, these next 2 weeks, I'll be going to IIT Tirupati and I'll be going to Manipal. My job is actually to speak with the professors, with the PhDs, with the masters and the BTechs as well, where we'll be talking about how do you upgrade your courses. And that's my hobby actually, to talk to the different institutes. How do you want to change? Because when I see that somebody is talking about reskilling, the skilling of employability, etc., lots of questions coming up. One of the things I'll tell you, most of us are engineers possibly here. I would say just go ahead, talk to your own alma mater and say that you'd like to mentor your department for 1 year or for 6 months. If that is you can do, I can tell you, people will be benefited. And I'm telling you, there will be a lot of, even after that impedance, even though you want to do it. But I will say that even if you don't go, if we don't go, or I don't go, I don't get the responses, so, not employable. At the end of it, I'll just tag it as not employable, or the students are bad. That's not the right thing to do. In my view, just go ahead and take extra mile. And I've done the same thing, right? So where I'll be talking about interdisciplinary. So what is a civil engineering? Civil engineers need to know what is data science today. They need to know what is mechatronics is. They need to know how that binding happens through electromechanical properties, right? Or the mechanical properties, spring properties. They need to understand. Nobody wants to go to the engineering institute to know shear force and bending moment. What do I do with the bending moment? After all, I am a civil engineer. I don't do anything on the bending moment. Which somebody says I understand, I appreciate that. But I do work with the mechatronics. I do work with the digital, right? I need to know. On my own, probably I harness that knowledge. But I think there needs to be a system to impart that appreciation of interdisciplinary, which is there. They talked about 10 universities. You go to the US, possibly it's there. In India, we are not getting it because we haven't started it or institutionalized it. I think we'll have to do, first it comes to me, individual, and then we'll talk about the group and the last at the government. Government is talking. I have actually stated in some of the, I have an ASSOCHAM hat as well, I talk about it, that all of us should just go ahead, talk to engineering college and say that I'd like to come here for 3 lectures, sir. Please give me 1 hour slot. I'll talk about digital in construction. It is not about data science alone, right? Thank you. I think we can take this discussion in a more constructive way again with actions, right? Maybe on the 14th session, we can come back and say that how many of us actually have done that, right? And that will be our success, even if it is 2 or 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudeep. Great discussion. We can go on and on. I mean, after having spent so much of time, I believe we have only scratched the surface, and I'm sure there will be many questions. I'm also conscious of lunch, and I don't want to really stand in between you and lunch, so we'll have to stop now. Thank you very much, Sudeep, Mohan and Amit, and lovely audience. I think you really participated very well, and thank you everyone for your time here. Great.
I think this has been one of the very focused, practical session in so many ways. Few words that stood out, gentlemen. Very interestingly, solid waste management came up, and I think garbage is everybody's baby, end of the day. The theme which came out also was very focused. A lot of practical things came. And the little point about skilling, it's surprising that there are some things which are constant in our life, which is a plumber, an electrician, and such like. and yet we don't have the skills there, we don't have the certification. Somewhere along, I think, Mr. Basu, you might consider the policy part in the government side, since we do also work in that field, that we don't have very practical policies which take care of such skilling. So maybe some of the fallouts and learnings from this session will be a long way to, take other things forward.
Can I take 30 seconds on that? 30 seconds. I know 30 seconds will not be.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Majumdar, whilst I would love to have a nice chat, ultimately, I think the chair has got up and made all of you get up. So I'm not quite sure what I should say about that. And I can see the organizers looking at me. So why would you want to put me in that hot soup? But Mr. Majumdar, I think there's a lot to discuss. And lunch is waiting. I don't know how. I can see a very large hall, so I'm not taking any more time. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for such a lively session in so many ways. And to end it with a laughter, starting with the laughter is the way to go. May I now please invite Mr. Sanjay Sahani, Executive in Charge, SBU Tube, Tata Steel, to give away the mementos. Request you to first give the memento to Mr. Ankur Basu. Mr. Mohan Bachav. Mr. Sudeep Majumdar. Mr. Amit Sethi.